Florida's Space Coast is a place where natural landscapes and American space history exist side by side. Along this stretch of Florida's East Coast, quiet beaches, lagoons, and estuaries sit just miles from launch pads that have supported more than 7 decades of spaceflight at the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
On this episode of The Adventures of Liz and Joe, we are taking you on an out-of-this-world road trip through one of Florida's most beautiful and historic destinations. Sit back, strap in, and prepare for liftoff.
Whether you're looking to escape the crowds of the theme parks in Orlando or visiting the beach as your main destination in the state, Florida's Space Coast has plenty to offer. Located just 1 hour from Orlando, this stretch of coastline makes for a perfect day trip or weekend getaway.
State Road 520 and 528 are the two main highways connecting Orlando to Brevard County, making it easy to head east from anywhere in the metropolitan area and head toward the beaches and communities of the Space Coast. We followed 528 east, then turned onto 520 to get to our first stop, the historic downtown area of Cocoa Village. Cocoa developed in the late 1800s as a railroad stop along the Florida East Coast Railway, playing an important role in the region's early commerce. After a fire destroyed much of the downtown area, Cocoa Village was rebuilt in the early 1900s, leaving behind a collection of brick buildings that still reflect turn-of-the-century Florida architecture. Among these is the historic Cocoa Village Playhouse Theater, built in 1924 and still in operation.
Today, Cocoa Village feels like a quaint step back in time. The historic character has been preserved while the area continues to host several art festivals, live music, and farmers markets throughout the year. Murals line many of the building walls, adding a special character to this area. We took a stroll down several streets lined with boutique shops, restaurants, art galleries, and other small local businesses. We stopped for lunch at a local bakery that offered croissants and other delicious baked goods.
There's also a large riverfront park with an amphitheater that provides space for community events and views of the Indian River. From Cocoa Village, we continued east, crossing the Indian River and passing through Merritt Island. On the other side of the Banana River, we reached the barrier island that's home to the cities of Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. The only road extending the length of the barrier island is State Road A1A, which travels through a number of coastal towns here. Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach gained national attention during the 1960s as America's space program expanded. Both communities became popular places for astronauts and space industry workers, drawn by the coastal setting and proximity to the Space Center. Cocoa Beach is also well known for its surf culture. The consistent waves and long shoreline helped shape it into one of Florida's iconic surfing destinations, and several professional surfers grew up here. Cocoa Beach is home to the flagship Ron John Surf Shop, a familiar landmark for visitors and a good place to pick up clothing and other essentials for a day at the beach.
Downtown Cocoa Beach offers a more walkable side of the city with local shops, casual restaurants, bars, and beachside cafes clustered near the shoreline. It has the kind of laid-back beach town atmosphere that makes it easy to spend a few hours wandering, grabbing a meal, or simply enjoying the coastal setting.
Beyond the shops and restaurants, the coastline here is easy to access. Popular public beach parks include Shepherd Park and Laurie Wilson Park, the latter located on I Dream of Jeannie Lane, a nod to the classic TV series set in Cocoa Beach. Some locations offer free parking, while others charge $6 per hour. Most street parking also requires payment. Much of the area is built up with high-rise condominiums along the waterfront, and the beaches can get busy at times.
What do you think?
Pass.
packed here.
The Cocoa Beach Pier provides a different perspective from above the waves. There is a fee to park at the pier, but no admission fee otherwise. From the entrance, the pier is approximately 700 feet long, making it a popular spot for dining, sightseeing, and taking in panoramic views of the coastline. The beach around the pier can get very busy at times. Several restaurants and bars are located along the pier, making it a popular gathering place for both visitors and locals. On clear days, the views stretch for miles up and down the shoreline, offering a unique vantage point that you won't get from the beach itself. Located just south of Cocoa Beach is Patrick Space Force Base, an active U.S. military installation that supports space launch operations, missile testing, and range safety for launches from the nearby Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Along this stretch, State Road A1A offers public access to several beach areas, but unlike in neighboring communities, there are no hotels, condominiums, or shops nearby, just wide open areas of shoreline bordered only by the military base.
Continuing back north and passing through Cocoa Beach, we reach the city of Cape Canaveral, which lies just south of the geographic feature of the same name. Sherrydown Park is a popular beach access point in Cape Canaveral with free parking and ample amenities. There are also plenty of beach access streets throughout the city, all of which are free to use. After entering the beach at the dune crossover, you will find broad beaches with plenty of room to relax and soak up the sun.
From the beaches of Cape Canaveral, you'll see some of the nearby launch pads and see the cruise ships sailing from the nearby port. Port Canaveral serves as a major departure point for several cruise lines and remains an active hub of maritime traffic. From the shoreline, it's common to see cruise ships, cargo vessels, and recreational boats moving steadily in and out of the harbor throughout the day. Another popular area to access the beach is Jetty Park, located at the mouth of Port Canaveral. As of 2026, the entrance fee for vehicles was $15. In addition to beach access, the park features a fishing pier, campground, playgrounds, picnic areas, and other amenities that make it a popular destination for families spending the day outdoors. The beach here is generally calmer due to its proximity to the jetty. The shoreline is wide and well maintained, with plenty of open space to spread out along the ocean. One highlight of the park is the 1,400-foot-long pier that extends alongside the jetty toward the harbor entrance. Walking along this pier provides a chance to enjoy the ocean breeze and a different perspective of the coastline. Visitors can walk to the end for views of the Atlantic Ocean, the huge rocks that make up the jetty, the entrance channel to the port, and the distant Cape Canaveral Lighthouse. Jetty Park marks the last publicly accessible beach in this section of the Space Coast for many miles. Beyond here, the shoreline surrounding the Space Center is restricted until Playalinda Beach, which we will visit later.
Leaving the barrier island behind, we crossed back over to Merritt Island and began heading north on Courtney Parkway. Busy roads gave way to long stretches of marshland and low-lying vegetation as development thinned out. Much of this area is part of the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, a protected expanse that surrounds the John F. Kennedy Space Center, the next stop on our trip. Arriving at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex feels like a distinct shift from roadside landscapes to something more like a theme park, built around decades of spaceflight history and ongoing exploration.
As of 2026, a one-day admission ticket was $77 for adults aged 12 and over and $67 for children. These tickets include access to all of the main exhibits and the narrated bus tour. The complex includes a number of outdoor displays as well as indoor exhibits and attractions. Near the entrance, the Rocket Garden showcases a collection of historic launch vehicles, most of which stand upright against the sky. Here you'll see the evolution of launch technology, including Mercury, Gemini, Saturn 1B, and Delta II rockets, among others. Nearby, the IMAX Theater projects space-themed films on a towering screen, and the Heroes and Legends Gallery features the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame. Gateway offers a look at current and future possibilities and houses the Spaceport KSC Motion Theater.
Look up. Look interested.
Look up, look interested. One of the centerpiece attractions at Kennedy Space Center is the Space Shuttle Atlantis exhibit. Out front is a full-size display of the external tank and solid rocket boosters that once carried the shuttle to orbit. After a brief video explaining the development of the Space Shuttle, Atlantis is displayed as though in orbit, with its payload bay doors open and grappling arm extended. A tour guide explained the incredible details of this launch vehicle, which flew 33 missions between 1985 and 2011. After this incredible close-up look at one of NASA's most iconic spacecraft, we spent more time exploring the exhibit, where nearby informational and interactive displays highlighted its missions and accomplishments over a 126 million-mile career. On the lower level of the exhibit, a Space Shuttle launch simulator lets visitors feel the acceleration and rumble that astronauts experience during liftoffs. Admission prices include the Kennedy Space Center bus tour, a narrated ride that takes you through restricted areas of the complex not accessible by car. The bus passes close to the Vehicle Assembly Building, a colossus of a structure where rockets are stacked and prepared for launch, and the adjacent Launch Complex 39. These historic pads once supported the Apollo missions and Space Shuttle program, and today serve a new generation of rockets. Pad 39A is now used by SpaceX, while Pad 39B has been reconfigured for NASA's Artemis program.
The first stop on the tour is usually the Launch Complex 39 gantry, which offers elevated views of the pads and surrounding launch infrastructure. During our visit, however, public access was closed ahead of the Artemis II launch. More on that later.
Farther down the coastline, additional launch complexes come into view, some active and some retired, representing different chapters in the history of American spaceflight. Our bus tour continued on to the Apollo Saturn V Center, an entire museum in and of itself, set apart from the main visitor area. Starting off with an overview of the Apollo program, visitors then experience a Saturn V launch demonstration that recreates the sights and sounds of liftoff, offering a sense of the immense power required to send astronauts to the moon.
Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another.
5, 4, ignition. Liftoff. Roger, clock. Clock start flight, Roger.
Stepping out from the control room, we headed to the main attraction here, a full-length Saturn V rocket resting in quiet grandeur, assembled from leftover parts and sections not used in completed missions. Its sheer size pales in comparison to the rockets we saw earlier in the rocket garden, and even to the Space Shuttle. Measuring 363 feet from end to end, the Saturn V is a behemoth. This rocket held the title as the most powerful ever flown until surpassed by the Space Launch System Artemis I mission in 2022. Throughout the Saturn V Center, exhibits tell the story of the Apollo program through artifacts, films, immersive displays, and a real piece of moon rock that you can touch.
I'm touching the moon.
The Lunar Theater shares the details of the Apollo 11 mission on screen and beyond, using moving, real-world displays to bring the dramatic story to life.
4 forward. 4 forward. Drift into the right a little. Down a half. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Here, men from the planet Earth. First step foot upon the moon. It came in peace for all mankind.
Another exhibit room at the exit to the theater displays more moon rocks, space helmets, spacesuits, and the Apollo 14 command module that flew to the moon in 1971. Outside, there is a small garden featuring a ring of trees descended from seeds once flown around the moon. On the back patio of the Saturn V Center, we were able to get a relatively close view of the launch pad 39B, where the Artemis II rocket stood tall, undergoing final preparations to take humans back to the moon. Show me some things that you really like here.
Turn the camera around. Yeah, right here. After checking out the exhibits and other sites here, we boarded the bus to head back to the main visitor center and finish out our visit to this historic area. Between the interactive displays, exhibits, immersive films, and the bus journey through both historical and operational spaceflight infrastructure, the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex provides a thorough overview of where American spaceflight began, where it has been, and where it is headed. The next morning, we headed east from Titusville, crossing the Max Brewer Bridge and following a narrow 2-lane road through the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge toward our next destination, Playalinda Beach at the Canaveral National Seashore. We arrived early in the morning, but there was a line of cars waiting to experience this beautiful area.
This protected seashore is the longest stretch of undeveloped Atlantic coastline in Florida, extending 24 miles from Playalinda Beach near the Kennedy Space Center to Apollo Beach at the northern entrance near New Smyrna Beach. Roughly half of that distance is inaccessible by road and can only be reached with a backcountry hiking permit.
The seashore is generally open daily from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but be sure to check the National Park Service website for modified hours or closures due to upcoming rocket launches. The entrance fee as of 2026 is $25 per vehicle, and the gate does not accept cash payments. As we made our way toward the shoreline, occasional openings in the landscape revealed the Artemis II rocket standing on Launch Pad 39B. From a few of the dune crossover points near the shoreline, the view became even clearer, offering a surprisingly close look at the rocket from outside the Space Center. At Playalinda Beach, there are 13 parking areas providing access to nearly 5 miles of undeveloped shoreline. All of the parking areas have restrooms but no running water, so plan accordingly. While Playalinda is not officially designated as a nude beach, the northernmost section near parking area 13 has long been known for clothing-optional sunbathing. Keep that in mind and stay farther south if you'd like to avoid that. While this beach can get busy, the crowds get nowhere near as large as they do at more accessible beaches, such as those in Cocoa Beach or Daytona Beach, where it can be difficult to find space to set up chairs or an umbrella. During the times when we have visited this beach, we have never felt it was too crowded to enjoy. Cell service is limited throughout much of the seashore, especially at Playalinda Beach. Once you're out here, the experience feels completely disconnected from civilization. What makes Playalinda so special is its solitude. There are no high-rise condos behind you to ruin the view, and no traffic noises or other sounds of the city. All you hear is the rhythmic crashing of waves against the sand and the occasional seagull squawking overhead. Wide stretches of sand extend in both directions, broken only by sea oats, dunes, and occasional boardwalks leading back toward the parking areas.
Like many beaches along the Atlantic coast of Florida, Portuguese man-o-war occasionally wash ashore here. These jellyfish-like creatures pack a powerful sting, so it's important to watch where you step, especially near the waterline.
We spent several hours relaxing along the shoreline, walking the beach, and cooling off in the ocean.
The waves were steady, the water was warm, and before long it was time to head back inland.
As we left the seashore, we caught one final glimpse of the Artemis II rocket standing above the surrounding landscape. Leaving the beach behind, the road carried us back into the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, where the landscape quickly shifted to marshes and wetlands. The Visitor Center is open Tuesday through Saturday and provides maps and information about the refuge. The scenic areas can be visited every day of the year during daylight hours. Most areas are free, including a number of walking trails scattered around the nature preserve. One trail at the Visitor Center provided an elevated walkway through the marsh area.
Oh, look.
The two hammock trails were nearby and offered longer, peaceful walks through the wooded areas, and signs telling you what sorts of flora and fauna you might come across here. Oak Hammock Trail is a half-mile figure 8, and Palm Hammock Trail is a 2-mile round-trip path out to a loop. The Black Point Wildlife Drive is a scenic gravel road that requires a $10 day-use fee. This 7-mile circular route travels through salt and freshwater marshes and provides the potential of getting up-close views of a variety of wildlife. During our drive, we spotted American white ibis and great egrets, just 2 of many species that call this area home. The wetlands here provide an excellent habitat for a wide variety of birds. Farther along, roseate spoonbills and tricolor heron appeared among dozens of other birds feeding and wading in the shallow water. About halfway through the Wildlife Drive, we reached the Cruikshank Trailhead. This pedestrian-only path is a 5-mile loop, but many visitors stop at the nearby observation tower. This platform gives an elevated view of the surrounding marshland, and the walk lets you stretch your legs before returning to your car for the remainder of the journey. Lurking along the edges of the waterways, we spotted several American alligators, some drifting motionless in the water, nearly indistinguishable from their surroundings. Some rested along the shoreline, soaking up the sun, and others were a little more active.
The refuge is home to 500 different species of wildlife and 1,000 species of plants, making it one of the most biologically diverse areas on Florida's East Coast.
After finishing the wildlife drive, we headed to the north side of the nearby Haulover Canal Bridge. There's a manatee observation deck here where manatees are known to frequent during the spring and summer.
Luckily, we were able to catch a quick glimpse of one manatee for a few minutes before she swam away.
After spending the day exploring the natural side of the Space Coast, we returned to civilization and explored the historic city of Titusville. Located just across the Indian River from the Kennedy Space Center, the city has long been closely connected to America's space program. If you plan your visit around a rocket launch and everything goes as scheduled, you will be in for a one-of-a-kind experience. You can check Spaceflight now for a regularly updated schedule of upcoming launches. Launch schedules can change frequently, and delays are common. Technical issues, weather, and other factors may delay a launch or result in a scrub, which is the cancellation of a launch attempt. Once you find a launch scheduled during your visit, the next step is choosing a viewing location. The Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex offers designated viewing areas for some missions. Depending on the launch, Playalinda Beach may also be an option, although it is closed for crewed launches. Otherwise, excellent views can be found along the waterfront from Titusville south to Cocoa, as well as from portions of State Road 528 between Merritt Island and Port Canaveral. There are plenty of public parks along the water in this area, to include Spaceview Park, Rotary Riverfront Park, and Parish Park. If you cannot make it to the riverfront, the beaches of Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach also provide good views. On clear days, launches can be seen from nearly anywhere in Brevard County and even from surrounding counties. Falcon 9 launches occur frequently and usually draw smaller crowds. High-profile missions, especially crewed flights, are a different story. Spectators come from all around to watch the launch, sometimes setting up chairs at viewing locations many hours or even a full day before liftoff. We visited the Space Coast leading up to the launch of Artemis II, the first manned mission of the program. This flight sent astronauts on a lunar flyby and served as a critical test of the Space Launch System rocket with a crew on board. This mission was a crucial step toward future flights to land humans on the moon again for the first time in nearly 6 decades. Along the riverfront in Titusville, the traffic was already hectic 3 hours prior to launch. Cars were parked anywhere they could fit, and pedestrians carrying chairs, cameras, and binoculars hurried steadily to find a good spot. Every unobstructed section of publicly accessible riverfront was filled with spectators. As launch time approached, attention turned to the weather. Low clouds and periods of rain moved through the area, but as the launch window approached, the skies began to clear, opening up just in time. After a few technical issues were resolved, the final countdown began.
Artemis II crew is go for launch.
A growing cloud of smoke and a bright flame appeared as the rocket lifted off from the pad.
3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston, now controlling the flight of integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
From this viewing location, roughly 12 miles away, the rocket climbed silently into the sky at first. Then, about a minute later, the sound arrived. A distant rumble built into a deep, sustained roar that rolled across the water and through the ground. As Artemis continued its ascent, the twin solid rocket boosters separated roughly 2 minutes into flight.
Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Few launch experiences compare to hearing and feeling the power of a rocket as large as the Space Launch System. After the launch, the experience was not quite over. As the crowds began to leave, traffic quickly became congested. It took nearly 2 hours to travel just a few miles back toward the interstate, a slow crawl shared with thousands of others heading out after the excitement of the launch.
From long stretches of beach and pristine wildlife refuges, to cruise ship terminals, historic spacecraft, and a new era missions to the moon, Florida Space Coast offers a little bit of everything. Whether you're visiting for a day or spending a long weekend exploring the area, there is no shortage of things to see and do here.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Adventures of Liz and Joe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we keep exploring exciting places around the world, one adventure at a time.